Dave Camarillo is a pioneer of Americans in Jiu-Jitsu. And as a matter of fact, he's one of the first Americans to come into Jiu-Jitsu with a high level of Judo competition as well. He was the sharp point of the spear of what a lot of people would consider one of the toughest teams of all in North America in the late 90s, the Ralph Gracie Jiu-Jitsu competition team. But you can also say that Dave had a major effect on Jiu-Jitsu, Judo, and later on as a coach, mixed martial arts. So this is the story of Dave Camarillo. Personally, Dave was a teammate and instructor for a long time. I've learned a ton off of the dude. I always tell this joke that I've known the guy for now 25 years and I've liked him for 24. The thing I could describe when I first met him, Dave was intense. You know, I've never had a bloody nose before I started training in Jiu-Jitsu, and in the first year of training, I think Dave gave me at least a dozen of them. I've since learned that intensity is still there, but Dave's actually one of the most passionate guys that I can think of. He cares a lot about everything. He strives for honesty and excellence in everything that he does. Honestly, I love the dude to death.
One reason and one reason only to the submission was to make people submit. Why do you come?
Same thing.
What about you? To watch.
Dave, sporty cross.
Looking for powerful legs. Mountain View,
Legs
California.
of steel.
From the Ralph Gracie Jiu Jitsu School.
You've seen one of the strongest legs in the world walking out. Come on, Dave.
Come on, Dave.
How would I describe Dave's personal style? Obviously, he combined the best elements of what worked for him between his judo career and his jiu-jitsu career. He blended his personal style with a lot of speed, and not just a physical style either. He had a real mental style on this too. Like when somebody says like, oh, I went against so-and-so and they felt like they were 10 steps ahead of me, they had to have been talking about Dave at this point. Obviously he had the great takedowns from Judo. He had quick transitions to attacks after that, particularly because in competition, Judo at the time, that you weren't allowed to go after submissions. You weren't allowed so much groundwork. As a matter of fact, the rumor was they shortened out the amount of Newaza and they called it the Camarillo rules, or at least that's what we thought at the time. He also developed a really strong guard, both closed guard and open guard. His ability to lift up his hips and spring the trap and go from where you're feeling safe to going into a submission, either an armbar or triangle, was as fast as anything you've ever seen. He has a really wonderful style to watch. It's beautiful high-level jiu-jitsu, judo, grappling, whatever you want to call it. It's a very hard style to emulate. And it's not to say that it came easy for Dave, even though he was practically born in a gi. His dad, Jim Camarillo, had him training literally since birth. You can often say, like, Dan Camarillo, his older brother, was far more naturally talented than Dave. But something about Dave, he just worked his ass off to get to where he was at. His dad had big aspirations for his judo career, really wanted to see him go up to the Olympics. Unfortunately for Dave, or fortunately, he actually competed in what a lot of people would consider one of the toughest divisions of any era of American judo, where he had the likes of guys like Chuck Jefferson, Ryan Reeser, and of course Jimmy Pedro were all in that weight class. Although under the judo rankings, I believe Dave did get an A ranking after his Canadian Open win. This is Dave Camarillo versus Fredson Pashon at Oscar Day Jiu Jitsu 2. Now, Oscar de Jiu-Jitsu 2 was an event set up around the super fight of Royce Gracie versus Belige Ishmael, which of course Royce Gracie was known from the UFC, so this was a huge deal. But not everybody realized there was a whole jiu-jitsu series of super fights that occurred at this time as well, like this whole undercard, if you will. And the one American, and really the one underbelt match that happened on here was Dave Camarillo versus Fredson Pachon. When they booked Fredson, they said that basically, we need somebody extremely tough to take this guy on. He does not lose. As a matter of fact, after this match, Fredson went straight from purple belt to black belt. And Dave came in, you know, he was used to fighting internationally, of course, but he's the only American on this card to tell you, you know, exactly what everybody thought about Dave's martial arts ability, his jiu-jitsu ability, and how much of a representative of American jiu-jitsu that Dave Camarillo was. So let's go ahead and enjoy this match.
Afasta dele, rapaz. Afasta pra trás, vai vir pra trás disso. Afasta dele.
noite.
Levanta pra cá também, Gô.
Vencedor o atleta David, da academia Half Grace, USA.
So here's a clear example of the Camarillo Special. That was the takedown to armbar, but both Dave and Dan did to great effect. Now, 2 things I learned from training with the Camarillo brothers. Number 1, never let a judo guy get their grips on you. You're going to go flying. And number 2, inevitably when you go flying, you better pull your arm in. Let's see that in slow motion. And those 2 techniques threaded seamlessly into one right there. Dave was infamous for that. Speaking of things that Dave was infamous for, here he comes with that infamous head grab. Why he did that, you're going to have to get him to explain that. Dave has since gone on to transition to be a high-level coach. You know, he was one of the original coaches at American Kickboxing Academy, and you can see him cornering guys such as Josh Thompson, John Fitch, and a prime Cain Velasquez. And he also founded his own team, which is spread worldwide, called Guerrilla Jiu Jitsu. But I still think of Dave as being the consummate martial artist. He's still a fantastic practitioner of jiu-jitsu, and he's somebody that's always trying to kind of push the boundaries and learn more about himself. So that's my take on Dave Camarillo. What do you think? Click, like, subscribe, share, and keep tuning in. I'm going to give you more of these career retrospectives.